Welcome to another episode of Simon Says, where facts come first. I'm your host, Jenny Simon. Thank you for joining me today again for another episode of Simon Says. We'll take a quick break and come back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Somehow last episode I forgot to mention in the Carifta section Miss Sarah Dowden. And somehow it got lost in the whole thing, but I did have it to bring to you. And for those of you who don't know, Sarah Dowden swam and won bronze, came in third in the girls 15 to 17 400 meter, a day after her dad died at the Princess Margaret Hospital in the Bahamas. At the Carifta Aquatics Championship in the Bahamas. Now, the swimming section of the Carifta Games was held in the Bahamas. Of course, we don't have an Olympic-sized pool here in Grenada to host it. So that section of it was hosted in the Bahamas. Her dad collapsed at the pool site on Saturday, the 27th March, 2024, after she qualified for the finals. I'll show you a clip of Sarah's interview after she medaled in the final, collecting a bronze.
Thank you so much. And what was it like coming, going through the race after the ordeal?
I felt tired, yeah. But accomplished, yeah. I feel like I made my family proud, my country proud, and that's my goal. Yeah.
Okay. And what's it like to be here in the Bahamas? I mean, despite everything.
I have to say it's one of my best Carifta. The people are very nice, friendly. The hotel is nice, accommodations, and again, they're very supportive here. And I love that Bahamas.
Accomplished indeed. Accomplished indeed. This young lady, Sarah, have the strength and the fortitude to swim and medaled hours, you can say, after her dad collapsed and died. Being there to support her, he and his wife accompanied her to support her. And she had that strength. That's no easy feat. I don't think I could have done it, And so we really want to congratulate Sarah. Best wishes to you in your further endeavors. Coming from Simon Says, young lady, you did make Grenada proud. Condolences coming from Simon Says to your mom and the rest of the family and of your friends and your swimming colleagues, the swimming fraternity. Condolences to us. May he rest in peace. We'll take another break and come back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. I have a huge question and answer section this time. And although I normally bring it to the end, I want to get rid of it and get it all there early, right? We have some people missing in action. We have some things missing in action. And so the followers, the fans of Simon Says has been sending in questions they want asked and questions to be answered. No, we don't really get answers on Simon Says from the powers that be, but sometimes they do by, like, for instance, the housing authority thing. We see those type of results. So we don't expect them to set answers. They're not answering the opposition in the parliament, who is Simon Says to be answered. But the questions must be asked. And so we must hold them accountable, right? And so this is what we do here on Simon Says as part of the episodes, of course. And the first one is, where is the PRO? And this one is not really to the government, it's to the PWU, the Public Workers Union. And some of your members are asking, where is their PRO? The PRO of the Public Workers Union, Daisy Hazard. It's been months now, and we've only been seeing the president, Mr. Grimes, Brian Grimes, and he is acting as president, as PRO, as force vice president. You guys at the public workers, you guys have to really, really be thankful for Mr. Brian Grimes. In my opinion, he is doing a wonderful job of struggling for you guys, and seems like he's alone in the wilderness. The second one is, where is police prosecutor Simon Douglas? One of, if not the best in the RGPF. And I did try to ask around, and I was told sitting somewhere at a desk. So if the RGPF could answer, where is police prosecutor Simon Douglas, we'd appreciate that. Where is Jason Phillip, the egg trucker? Remember the truckloads of eggs distributed in the South? In the early days, I used to wake up to hearing Jason on a live every morning, supporting his party, the New National, the NDC, supporting the NDC, and letting us know what's going on, whether digging a drain and whatever. We got that from Jason, and Jason has seemed to disappear. And some people are calling. They said they could really do with some eggs. Where is the chairman of the Housing Authority Board, Mr. Hugh Thomas? He was noticeably missing at the second ribbon cutting of the current housing scheme. And I have a question for Mr. Thomas, Mr. Hugh Thomas, the chairman of the Housing Authority, if he's still the chairman. And but I'll play this clip so you would get the perspective of where I'm going.
So as we go down the road, we would see that ownership of the units from the start is the way to go. We would transfer into your hands over 60 an equity or wealth directly into your hands immediately as you purchase these units. We are asking people to do one of two things. If you have the full amount, you could come to the Housing Authority and buy it straight from the Housing Authority. If you don't, then you will need a loan from any of the financial institutions. The Housing Authority of Grenada contacted the financial institutions before, and they are on board, and they're eager and they're willing. They are going to be offering loans. We had suggested at 3%, and it will go from maybe between 3 and 5%. But we really got the assurance of some that they would stick to the 3%. The cost of a single one-bedroom unit is $55,000, and the cost of a single two-bedroom unit is $73,000.
Now, later on, Mr. Thomas went on the To The Point program, and he said there that the financial institutions, they decide they can't do the 3%, but they would go close to it, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know if that ever happened, but that 3% thing did not happen. Now, I have a question for Mr. Thomas. When the recipients get the loan approved from whichever financial institution, they bring you their $55,000 $73,000 or the $73,000, and they give that all to you, one lump sum. That's what they got. Or maybe the money is transferred to you from the bank or wherever, but you get your money. You get your $55,000 for the 1 bedroom and your $73,000 for the 2 bedroom. You guys said to them, you only paying $55,000 for a 1 bedroom and $73,000 for a 2 bedroom, and that is not correct. Because we all know what happens when you take out a mortgage or a loan, any loan at any bank, any institution. How is the bank making their money if they just give us that and then we just pay them back the same amount? So there's interest added. And it all depends on how long a period you take or they give you to pay it back. Together, most times you come together and say, well, I can do 5 or I can do 10, I can do 4, right? So I got some maths done from someone in credit in one of the institutions. Now, listen closely. 5 years, for 5 years, right? We started 5 years. Because when I spoke before, I mentioned that this 30 years and that kind of thing, they're not going to do that. Not for that little bit of money. However, we're going to go from 5 to 30. So 5 years at 4% at $55,000. At the end of your payment, it's if you pay every monthly, you've been paying. You're a good customer. $60,780, right? That's for 55. And 5 years at 4% for $73,000, $80,700. 5 years at 5%, right? So we did 4% and 5%. So 5 years at 5%, $62,280. That's for the $55,000. 5 years at 5%, $73,000, $80,880. 10 years at 4%, $55,000, $66,840. 10 years at 4%, $73,000, $88,800. 10 years at 5% and at $55,000, $70,080. 10 years, 5% for $73,000, $93,000. We climbing, and that's more years, and which I'm sure most of you who receive monies from the financial institution was between that range, 10, 15, maybe even 20. 15 years, 4% for $55,000, $73,260. And that's your end of your payment. 15 years at 4% for $73,000, $97,200. So that is what you're paying for your 1 bedroom and your 2 bedroom apartment. Not $55,000 and not $73,000. 15 years, right? 15 years, 5%, $78,300 for the $55,000. And 15 years, 5% for $73,000, $104,040. 20 years at 4%, $55,000, $80,160. 20 years at 4% for $73,000, $106,320. 20 years at 5%, $55,000, $87,120. 20 years at 5% for $73,000, $115,680. 30 years at 4%, $680. And the 4% for $73,000, $125,640. 30 years at 5% for $55,000, $106,560. And 30 years, 5% for $73,000, $141,120. And this is what they're asking for people to pay back for a one bedroom apartment and a 2-bedroom apartment. And some of their monthly payments range from $392, some $482, $443, $578, depending on the amount of years and the amount. Like it's 73 or 55,000, 407, 540. And these people are supposed to be low income earners, and they're supposed to have to pay insurance on their apartment and maintenance fee to the condominium act, according to the Condominium Act, right? So then you have your utility bills, you have to eat food, you have to feed your family. This is what our caring person government did to our low income earners. This is what they did to these people. And speaking of bills, I came across this past week, if not yesterday, I think, a flyer addressed to the residents of the Sobeys housing scheme. It came from NWASA, and it was dated the 5th of April 2024, and they're requesting a meeting to discuss their new sewer charges effective June the 1st, 2024. Now I'm going to read that to you, and I would like to know, to get some feedback of the that meeting, because I don't understand. We all pay sewer charges in NWASA. So I don't know if these people up there would be paying more than us now, than the rest of us at the Sobeys housing scheme. And it says, effective June the 1st, 2024, the National Water and Sewer Authority, NWASA, will be implementing a new sewer charge for the Sobeys housing scheme, which will be reflected in your monthly billing statement. Understanding the significance of this charge, we believe it is crucial to provide you with clear information regarding its implementation, rationale, specifics, and associated benefits. To ensure transparency and address any questions or concerns you may have, we cordially invite you to a community meeting on Wednesday, April the 7th, 2024, beginning at 5 p.m. The meeting will be held on the compound of the Sobeys housing scheme. During this meeting, we will discuss the following points: reason for the change. We will provide detailed information on the rationale behind the introduction of the sewer charge and how it aims to improve service, quality, maintain infrastructure, and cover operational costs to ensure a sustainable and efficient sewer system. We will outline specifics of the new sewer charge, including its calculation, frequency, and how it will be reflected in your monthly billing statement. So I mean, First it was the people up at La Colombe. Now it's the Soubise people. Some of the residents there are not paying for their homes. These are the people that was on the bay in Soubise, and for their safety and the safety of their families, they moved them out of there, the administration at the time, and they put them up at this house. They gave them place to live in that housing scheme. So they're not even paying because a lot of them can't afford to pay. They can't afford to pay a monthly. And it was really good. I don't even know which one of the administrations did that. I'm assuming it's the New National Party, but I'm not sure. And it was a good thing. It was a good gesture to save their lives and to give them a place to stay. You move them from there, and that's what we've been saying all the time. Don't just tell them they got to move and they have nowhere to go. So they did give them somewhere to go. And so they are a bit worried about this whole new system here. To the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, what are the findings of the investigation of the faith organization? Lest we forget.
But moving away from some of the HR challenges, we have a challenge as to how government funds are used. And I'm just going to cite a couple of examples. And some of it has already been in the media. On assuming office, we learned of the existence of an organization, and I always struggle with the name, so let me get a correct name. Have Faith. Yes. So let me make sure I don't misquote the name and I give you the correct name. Well, the name changed, so I will give you the original name and the current name. We encountered an organization called Faith Organization for People's Development, Inc. Now, the organization is incorporated under the Companies Act as a not-for-profit company. Therefore, it should be engaged in philanthropic, charitable, religious helping, not to make a profit. Prior to that, it did a name change. Its original name was St. Andrew Southeast Development Organization, Inc. The learned Minister of Education ran for the beautiful constituency of St. Andrew Southeast. So when this entity was incorporated, it was incorporated as a not-for-profit organization called St. Andrew Southeast Development Organization, Inc. The name hints or suggests it was meant to help develop the constituency of St. Andrew Southeast. It subsequently metamorphosized, became a butterfly, and became the name Faith. But I just want to point out something. In 2 years, between 2020 and July of 2022, this company was paid $6.8 million by the government of Grenada. Now, in addition to that, the then Cabinet of Grenada passed a cabinet resolution handing over 3 community centers located in St. Andrew Southeast to that same organization. Community centers meant for the community, meant for use of the people, was handed over to this company, to this not-for-profit company. Now, if you're a not-for-profit company, and if you can convince the government of Grenada in 2 years to give you $6.8 million, what are you providing to the people of Grenada? And how miraculously the only client you have is the government of Grenada. So what were the services they were providing? Apparently, sanitization services. Spraying children's hands when they come to school. Maybe wiping countertop or chair or whatever, I don't know. But in 2 years, they racked up $3 million in revenues. Not-for-profit companies are required to file financial statements at the company's registry. No financial statements have been filed for 2021, and I doubt any will be filed for 2022. But let's dig a little deeper. Last time I checked, the government of Grenada, sometime in February of 2022, dropped all protocols in relation to COVID-19. There was no mask wearing, there was no social distancing, there was no sanitization, there was no insistence on anybody spraying anything. So explain to me, between February and July, elections were in June, and July, what services could you possibly have been providing when it comes to sanitization and so on? And I'm simply pointing, those are facts. You can argue about contract and so on, that's fine. I'm a lawyer. We can get to court when the time comes. And who has to sue can sue.
So we've heard it. We've heard all what was wrong about Faith and who's a lawyer and wanted to sue. And an investigation was on after this information was found. We're just kindly asking, where is this the investigation today? What's happening there? And these guys are a bunch of jokers, because they now form an NGO called Nation Builders, which is competing with Faith, I would say. Of the, so we want to know, but we'll come to Nation Builders. I mean, I spoke to you on Nation Builders already, and we're not going to ease up because we need to know about Nation Builders. Now, so we're kindly asking for any information. It's almost 2 years. I mean, Faith turned around and suing the government of Grenada, I'll have you know, just so that they can pay the workers that did not get their final couple months salary, I think it was, right? To the Prime Minister, where is the cabinet conclusion you spoke of? In fact, let's hear what you had to say of this cabinet conclusion.
A gentleman of Polish origin applied apparently to be made ambassador at large on behalf of the citizens of Grenada. That gentleman was told, and it appears that the cabinet, the then cabinet, agreed to appoint the gentleman as ambassador at large. He was told that in order to do so, he needed to pay US $290,000 to the state of Grenada. $150,000 US was paid to the state of Grenada, and there's a treasury receipt for it. Another $140,000 US was paid to the New National Party South St. George office. Let me repeat that. $140,000 US was paid, and this is in June of 2022, right before the elections. $140,000 US paid to the New National Party South St. George office. We have the records. So since the cabinet conclusion said it was $290,000 US to the state of Grenada, last time I checked, the Constitution does not establish the New National Party South St. George office as part of the state of Grenada. So my free advice now is that the New National Party South St. George office, or the New National Party for that matter, should kindly hand over to the state of Grenada. The $140,000 US that magically found its way into your bank account. Now, I don't know who advised the Polish gentleman, but as a good colleague of mine said, This must have been Wagiti Bingo. And you clearly gambled and lost. The gentleman has been asking back for his money. The state of Grenada has no intention of paying back any money to anybody. But I also want to point out and give some free advice to the South St. George branch of the New National Party that you might have to pay back the man the money.
So, the $290,000 cabinet conclusion that says that the opposition has said that is not true, that's a lie, and that you cannot prove it, and that there is no cabinet conclusion to show such. So the opposition and some of us citizens are asking, have been asking for the cabinet conclusion that shows that. The question is, did the NNP South branch paid the government back the $150 US that you're speaking of there, and that you asked them to pay back to the Treasury? So some people are supposed to take jail. Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to investigate that one. You said you have the proof to show it. You're a lawyer, and I guess you know it's best, right? So we're asking, and we're still asking for that cabinet conclusion to show that the $290,000 US was supposed to go to the Treasury. And as you said, there's a cabinet conclusion to show you have the receipt. Show us the receipt. That's all we're asking. Show us the receipt. Nothing. That's gone cold. We hear nothing about that again. It was the oohs and the ahs, and everybody's surprised, and who taking notes, and who looking back, and who leaning forward to chat and to talk about, what? Right? Nothing. That gone quiet. None of you ain't saying nothing. He ain't saying nothing. Nobody's saying nothing. Well, I guess I know the others can't talk, the other ministers, and they can't talk out of turn. You must be told when to speak, or sit down and shut up. This is what is going on within our cabinet. You cannot speak, and you must take the blame for the Prime Minister when needed. But we're going to talk about that next week. Don't miss next week's episode. I'm warning you all. So, we need the conclusion. We need to know if the South branch had paid back the $140 US. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, how about the CES program? We need an update on the CES program, because that was money. They don't even have to pay it back. That's monies given to these young entrepreneurs, small business holders, owners, to uplift, right? Some to start their business, some to help continue their business so they could employ others and that sort of thing, which was a good thing. That is monies you met there from the former administration. You said you don't have time for the every month, give a 8 or a 700, but so you're going to give them the lump sum and have them. Give us a success story, a couple of success stories. I mean, thousands of people, according to you, got these monies. We need a success story. Or hundreds, sorry, I don't think it was so, maybe hundreds of persons received this grant for the CES program. Give us a success story or two. Somebody, a small business owner, you gave them for the help up, he was able or she was able to hire, employ workers, people who were unemployed, and everything is good, everything is going good. Right? We need some. I want you all to listen to what the Prime Minister had to say about the CES program.
I'm advised by Minister Andrews that arrangements are going to be made to pay out somewhere in the region of $770,000 this week to persons who applied under the CES program so that they can start their own business or expand their own business. And so the aim is between now and December, on average, to approve and pay out on or about $1 million a week between now and December under the CESS program so that we can empower young people in particular and persons wanting to start their own business or expand their own business, in particular the productive sectors, agriculture, fishing, agro-processing, etc.
So, $1 million a week. We heard all sorts of stories coming from CESS. Can't confirm who take money, who give only NDC, who take, who do, who what. The program was taken from the young senator and given to the bag lady, Ms. Andra St. Bernard, to manage. We need to know. Just tell us about two success stories, and show us, even if they're not doing, they're trying, and the others, the new ones that you gave the money to start up their businesses. All sorts of people got money, $25,000, $30,000, who get equipment, whatever, to start their business. Just show us. We need accountability and transparency. That's what we're asking for. Why is the Nation Builders, who's an NGO, that had originally held the address of Unit Number 2, Hobson House, St. John Street, St. George, which is the building belonging to the Prime Minister of Grenada. That was the address given. It's now changed to building number 6, Financial Complex, carrying a phone number 415-0573. Isn't that the Ministry of MIT, the Office of MIT? And as I understand it, it's a box, as it were, really small, really small. And now we have Nation Builders sitting in MIT. So do we have MIT anymore, or are we just dealing with Nation Builders now? Because there really isn't anything for Minister Andy to do anymore. Most of the projects are already on their way. We haven't, been hearing much. I think the painting done, it looked like paint done. I ain't seen no more black and white painting taking place, but we need a refreshing right now. But that's what we need, of the black and white. Mostly the white, of course. So maybe, but you must tell us. These are things we need to know. We're not just here as sitting ducks. Please tell us what or who is Nation Builders, right? To the Prime Minister again, Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Is it an honorable thing to hire your sister in the Ministry of Infrastructure, you being the line minister? Isn't that nepotism? Is that what you're trying to get rid of? Let's hear what you had to say about nepotism.
But getting back to the main point, we need to run our country based on merit, based on hard work, based on the desire and the willingness to overcome and to find solutions to the challenges that face us. We will not move forward or prosper as a people if the sole basis for job selection, for promotion, for the award of contracts is party loyalty or personal loyalty. If we continue with this approach, we will be doing ourselves and the several generations of Grenadians to come a huge disfavor. And so under my leadership, I intend to break that vicious cycle of nepotism.
So, Minister, Prime Minister, and Minister of Infrastructure, would you say that's nepotism, you hiring your sister in your ministry? I say it's nepotism, and a whole bunch of others, once you know the meaning of nepotism. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, who is paying Ron Redded a salary of $15,000 per month to stay at home? Is it that was a buy-off? Was that a bribe so that he agreed to not give trouble? Because as I understand it, what he did, there are others who did it and still in the cabinet. He talking, you know. He talking. Or his friends talking, people who know or who he tell talking, but it's all there. So, is it the government of Grenada or is it Mr. Lee? By the way, Ron, how's the studies going? How's the, you know, what's going on? What's going on there? How's the studies going? Folks, we'll take a quick break and come right back and continue with the questions.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Prime Minister, another question for you. What is the status of the Calavini Main Road project? That is from Springs, Woodlands, Calavini Junction, you know, the tire, to the cliff, right? What is the status there? I remember you telling us something about that. Let's hear what you had to say.
Major artery that work will commence on shortly, Mr. Speaker, is the cliff to Woburn Road. In fact, the original intent was to stop vehicle access to that area starting this Monday. But in light of the long Easter weekend that is upon us, Mr. Speaker, as well as the Carifta Games, we've taken the decision to allow access to the road to remain until after the Easter weekend. And we expect that preliminary works for the commencement of major renovation of that piece of road to therefore commence in earnest immediately after the end of the Easter period.
So Easter's gone. The Carifta Games ended on the 1st of April. And that was the end of Easter as well. And we're 2 weeks into April. And you know what caught my attention was, I'm not sure if it was Nawasa or who, somebody, they had a drain across the road, that road, between the Woodlands, Springs Junction and the cliff. You know, sometimes when Nawasa do their digging and for their pipe, and they left something like a sleeping policeman there. And it was there for a few weeks, well. And I'm driving home a couple of evenings ago, and there was a smooth, and I thought, because you said to stop and go down and think, and I thought, what happened here? They fixed it. And then I said to myself, well, why are they patching roads when they're about, or it should have been going on then, that road should have been, right now as we speak, being restructured. You know, and all the fancy thing about the last administration, you know, the last administration did no plan, nothing properly. And now that NDC coming, they have to fix everything and draw over all the plans and so, to make it better. They did, none of it was good, none of it. So this one as well, they had to draw over plans and so. So they're telling you that the project was there before, it was already allocated for, but the plans was not good, the drawings was not good. So they did over that, and they're ready to go now. And the only reason why they stopped it was for the Easter weekend, all the visitors here, the Carifta Games, that sort of thing. And it was going to start immediately after. And we await, right? So just give us an update as to what's going on there. We're going to start, now if it's going to start at the end of April, tell us that. You know, don't just leave us and you say things, you come out, you say so much things. And then we hear nothing again. Nothing. You know? Keep us updated. That's what a little cabinet briefing? Yeah, that little cabinet briefing once in a while would help us out there as well. You know? Yeah. So tell us what's going on with that road. I'm a bit concerned. Because that's a major road for me as well. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, what are your findings of the technical committee charged with the investigation of the oil and gas situation in Grenada? The group is chaired by V. Nazimberg, for those of you who don't know, or those of you who don't remember. And we had members like Mr. Richard Duncan, the advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Raymond Nuss, a Grenadian geologist living in Germany, Rodney George, the chairman of Grenlec Board, a representative from the Attorney General's Chamber, and one from civil society organization. We don't have the names for those two. Now here's what led to the Prime Minister forming this technical committee for this investigation.
As of today, we are yet to solve the mystery of Grenada's offshore oil and gas reserves. Very little records can be found anywhere within the government, and our technocrats within the ministries and departments have very little information on this matter. Upon assuming office, my government was not provided with any transition report or any files on Grenada's legal or contractual obligations or Grenada's progress in relation to its oil and gas reserves.
I'm sure we all remember this because the Governor General sweat in an air-conditioned room when she was reading that. I don't know if she read it before, if it was the first time she saw it, or the anticipation brought her in the sweat, but she had to tap it. Sweat. Okay, so there was no records, nothing of oil and gas when they came into office, and so now it had to go in the throne speech to tell us that, and the committee was formed to investigate. But I mean, it's bright boys in the committee, and by now we should get a little update on what's going on. Maybe they're not finished, but you could come now and then and tell us, well, this is where we at. Or is it a stalling? Are they stalling? In 2018, at the NNP's last rally in Perth, the then Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Mitchell, and leader of the NNP, told a massive gathering at the Pearls Strip that it seems like we have oil. It seems like we have oil. Lest we forget.
Sisters and brothers, one well. We have several more wells which are even more exciting than the one they just found. In other words, Grenada can be a massive supplier of oil and gas.
Now, the Prime Minister, Deacon Mitchell, is asking for the documents that suggest so. I have a question for the Prime Minister before I continue. Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, didn't the Global Petroleum Group, GPG, through their attorney here on island, who they gave power of attorney, contact or try to contact the government of Grenada in June, immediately after the election, right after, to meet up, to sit down, to discuss, to disseminate information, to compare documents. You would have gotten documents there on the oil and gas situation in Grenada. Did GPG try to contact the government of Grenada? I was reliably informed that the individual who holds the power of attorney contacted the Ministry of Environment first, spoke to a worker there, a senior worker there, who suggested that they contact the Prime Minister directly because, of course, the minister there, Minister Karine James, and the PS at the time were just a few days old in that ministry and would not have been able to handle that discussion, so that they should meet with the Prime Minister, which he tried to. He contacted the Prime Minister's office, and to date, a couple months shy of 2 years, have not been able to meet with the Prime Minister or his ministry on the oil and gas situation and the company GPG that had a valid exploration license and now holds a valid development license, right? Now, the exploration license, according to the laws of Grenada, was for 5 years. And during the 2008-2012 reign of the former NDC administration, the Tillman Thomas-led NDC, they refused to cooperate with GPG, who acquired their license from the previous administration, the NNP. An exploration license, as I said, is valid for 5 years. During that period, the company decides whether or not they would continue. So they start digging, they start checking to see if there is oil in layman terms, and they would decide if it would go moving on after the 5 years or cut and run. So their license was going to be expired at the end of 2013, at the end of 2013. And the NDC administration, as I was informed, was hoping that the expiration date came and they would not have to go on further with GPG. But they expired before that, and they were voted out of office 15-0, right? Second 15-0. So, and the NNP came back in office before the expiration date. However, it was that close. And so, there's nothing in the law that makes provision for an extension of the expiration date. Therefore, the company either had to cut and run, or if they by then they decided to move on, was to apply for the development license, which they did and which was accepted. So they're back in game. The license for the exploration date, as I said, expired. They got the development license in the 2008-2020 administration. They never bothered, so I'm not sure what went on within that time, within that period. But GPG was ready to go. Fortunately or unfortunately, as I said, NDC expired. Now, they continued to do their digging or drilling, right? And it was because of that, the Prime Minister then made this announcement at Pearls. Some of you might remember when the NDC took office in 2008, the Grindberg situation. And Grindberg was suing the then Minister for Energy and Deputy Prime Minister, Gregory Boeing. I don't think the Constitution allows for that, but that was his title, Deputy Prime Minister. And the government and people of Grenada for wrongdoing. Grindberg, an American investor, said the Russians as well was sued for wrongdoing over drilling rights, right? Over oil they're fighting for over there. The U.S. Court of Appeal cleared them of wrongdoing, so that is the Minister for Energy, Gregory Bowen, the government and people of Grenada, and the Russians. They were cleared of wrongdoing. So much so that that, if I didn't mention, GPG, they were the ones who paid the lawyer fees, the legal fees for that lawsuit. Because if we remember clearly, I do remember that, the Prime Minister then, Uncle Tilly, saying, Gregory Bowen is on his own. Him not paying no fees, no legal fees for Gregory Bowen. When in fact it wasn't for Gregory Bowen, but he was the Minister of Energy then. And whoever that person was, they would have been involved in the lawsuit. So they were getting sued under really the government of Grenada. But he had his separate suit from the people and government of Grenada. The court ruled that there was no conspiracy between the former Keith Mitchell administration and a group of Russians at GPG to prevent Jack Grindberg Company from searching for oil in Grenada's waters. There was no conspiracy. So, of course, the government had terminate Grindberg's exploration contract in 2005, and he decided he would take them to court. Then after the NDC lost in 2013 elections, GPG paid, as I said, the legal representation for both Bowen and the government of Grenada, and of course themselves, if they were also sued. So GPG continued doing business with the government of Grenada, and they started to drill. They brought their ship, they brought their the drilling thing. Now, some of you might remember there was this ship and barge looking thing and things happening, or not far out, we could have seen it, and Grenadians started to get worried and asking what is going on, because we were not told then exactly what was going on there. And with the development license, they started drilling, and they drilled a section. It's sectioned off in blocks, as you might realize by now, and they started to drill in block D, right? They had what they call a test well, and they were out there doing their thing. So they drilled down, and according to reports, they saw something. And so they reported to the powers that be then. The Prime Minister, of course, Dr. Mitchell, that's when he got excited and went to Perth and gave the announcement. Possibly we do have oil out there. The whole thing belly up immediately after that, when the pandemic came, because that was in 2018. Now that election was for the 2018 election. In Europe and Asia and some of these countries, the pandemic started then. It came to us, to the Caribbean, a little late, a couple of years after in some instances. But because of that, the whole thing stopped and we had this lull. And then 2022, 18 to 19 to 20 to 21 to 22, 2022, we had a new administration, and so GPG tried to contact the new administration. A development license is good for 20 years and can be renewed for a further 10 years. So they have 20 years on that license. During the 2018-2019, GPG also made preliminary arrangements with a gas company in Trinidad to work along with in the drilling of the Grenada oil and gas. The bottom line is there is something out there. The holdup was the pandemic, and now they want to meet with the new administration, who is not accepting that invitation thus far. And again, I say GPT is seeking a meeting with the government of Grenada to continue the process. I'll take a quick break and come right back.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.
Welcome back. Now, I toyed a bit with bringing this to you, but sometimes they say for good therapy, you need to talk, you need to bring it out. And I love sharing things with my family, my Simon Says family. I get good feedback and I feel good. And so I'm going to bring it to you. I received a blog, a correspondence from my dear cousin. He is my cousin, Hamlet Mark. Earlier on in the week, he always sent me his correspondence, everything. So I opened and I was shocked to see what I was reading. And it brought back horrific, when I tell you horrific memories, trauma to me. It was the time of the NDC from about 2010 to the end of their reign, when there was this faction, the Peter David faction as we call it, within the NDC. A very traumatic experience for some of us who been early in the politics. I as a matter of fact, I was just an ordinary member of the NDC in the 2003 elections. I went to my rallies, not an ordinary member. And it was because of this disturbance, because of this faction, I was asked to come forward because, of course, there was a breakaway and they need to fill spaces. And I became the president of the Women's Arm. And eventually in a convention, I became the deputy chairman of the party. Now, my office was on HFLA Street, my job. And the NDC headquarters was on Lucas Street, right by the Wesley House building. So I left my vehicle whenever we had executive meeting at work, crossed over to Green Street, walked up the steps alongside the Methodist Church, the building, the Methodist building, and crossed the road and was right at our head office. We rented that little house there. Well, I'm not sure if they rented, but we used that little house there. And I went there, I walked up, and I told people how traumatic that was. My knees would literally buckle under my body. I had knots in my stomach. There was a fear because you would think that one day a physical fight would break out in that little room there where we was. There were several times it came close to members of the faction coming close to assaulting the Prime Minister then, Uncle Tilly, and leader of the NDC, political leader of the NDC. It was that bad. And so it was traumatizing. But we fought the way through. We were banned, the different constituencies, the branches, were banned from having their elections to elect their new chairpersons and their new executive. The Women's Arm was banned, the Youth Arm was banned. But what they didn't bargain for was that the Women's Arm and the Youth Arm were not under the convention, according to our constitution. We didn't get, we didn't do our AGMs on the day of the convention. So we didn't pick our executive there. We did that separately on our own. And we were just mentioned at the conventions. So although they said we were banned, we went ahead, the Women's Arm, we went ahead and had our AGM. That's when I became president. And we had a new executive. And we worked along. It was a handful of us to save the brand of the NDC. It was a handful of us. It was myself, Uncle Tilly, Glenn Noel, Nazim Buck, and a few others really who followed. The Women's Arm followed, and we went around the island. And that's how we told then, which was too late, what was going on in the party. Because since 2010, there was the rumors. There were rumors of this, of the faction and who gone on this side with Peter and who still, which he had from the executive and the cabinet and the parliamentarians. He had the majority. One of his people one day called me and said to me, why am I not come on board? And I said, why should I? And he said to me, well, he has a majority of parliamentarians, the cabinet. And I said, well, count that figure for me. I said, have you been on the ground? The masses do not want Peter David as our leader as he was trying to wrestle the leadership from Uncle Tilly, where he said, we are not going back, and he's speaking about him and his faction, they're not going back in another election with a peasant boy as a leader. Now, I don't know if you guys know what peasant mean. You can Google it. But a peasant boy, he referred to him as. Now, so we had our elections and we were moving. He was absent from an executive meeting one day, and the deputy leader, Mr. Nazim Burke, was chairing the meeting because Peter then was the GenSec of the party. So, you know, he had control of the engine. And it was rumored, and I can say here that it was true, that the chairpersons were compromised, all except one. I will tell you all who that one was. It wasn't me, but one, close to me. And they were compromised. So that is why he wasn't allowing the branches to have meetings and to have their new executive, because he had control of the chairpersons, and of course, more than likely the chairpersons had control, maybe not total, but enough control of the branches. And so they were ready to go into a convention, a special convention, to have Uncle Tilly removed as leader. Because according to the constitution of the NDC, as long as you're prime minister, you cannot be challenged. And if you're not prime minister 3 years, you cannot be challenged as leader of the party. So this thing went on and went on and went on. And there were a lot of confusion. I mean, some of you would remember it. There were confusion and there were rumors and I spoke to one of them one day. I said, what are we doing? We're destroying the party. Oh no, we're gonna fix it, man. We're gonna fix it. I said, how you plan on fixing it? You ever glue back a plate together and it was able to hold gravy? And those were my exact words. And he said, nah, man, we gonna fix it, we gonna fix it. And he walked away, right? Now, NDC at the time, since from the 2003 election, were looking good. We lost that election by 6 points, the 2003 elections. And when I hear, I'm a lawyer, I smile, because that NDC government, that NDC cabinet of Tillman Thomas had the administration. They had 6 lawyers up front, if so to speak. And then, of course, there were others right there following. For instance, the Attorney General, who was not a candidate and was not in the front, then Mr. James Bristol, no Casey, James Bristol, he became the Attorney General, a lawyer. And there were others, you know, right there. So, but 6, right? We had Tillman Thomas, Peter David, Nazim Burke, George Prime, Ali Gill, and then there was, of course, Ferron Lowe, who worked in the Ministry of Agriculture. He was a part of the thing, right? 6. So this, I'm a liar. Anyway, the NDC was looking good. And I say to people all the time, if Peter David had waited his turn, he would have been Prime Minister of Grenada. NDC would have, I'm almost certain, given a second chance if they went in there and do what they had to do as they started off, with all that faction and the fight and the infighting and the fight for leadership and power and the breakaway eventually which led to about 13 of them being expelled from the party. A couple ministers fired. Well, the AG got fired. The Minister of Works got fired, who was, the Minister of Work was a part of the faction. And they even came to executive meeting one day and tried to bully Uncle Tilly in taking him back. It didn't happen. Y'all had to see Uncle Tilly upset, and all who think he's a walkover, he's not. Anyways, so, and then a minister was demoted. I think he was Minister of Agriculture then, or Trade, one of them. That is Mr. Church, Michael Church. He was demoted for traveling without or lying to Uncle Tilly about where he was going. And he was demoted. And so he didn't like that. I understand. It is alleged, cuss a few bad words and walk out. And so he became a backbencher because he didn't cross the floor to the NNP. So the whole thing was a hot mess right then and there. And so there was a first no confidence motion called against the government in the parliament by the NNP. It didn't work because some of them did not vote against their government at the time. They were still MPs, Peter David and so. And then they managed to convince one of our own, that was Mr. Carl Hood, to call a second no confidence motion. Word got to Uncle Tilly and that was about to happen, and he prorogued the parliament, and the history was that was it. We called election because at a specific time, once you prorogue the parliament to set a date, which he followed, and the NDC was history and remained history up until 2022. Now, that letter, that correspondence that I received, and when I read it, it's happening now in the NNP, and that brought back that trauma. My stomach knotted up, and I was like, what is this thing going to happen again in Grenada? I don't care which party it happened in. Nobody needs to go through that, right? And so I thought I would bring it to you. You might have heard that my dear cousin there been on several media platforms with the same story, and saying all manner of things about the leader of the NNP, things they did, about NDC, about the leader of the party then, Tillman. He's a dictator, he don't listen, he this, he that, and we have to get rid of him. The same thing happened. And I don't understand. These guys are brilliant guys, and I don't understand why. Why? Because as I said, if that faction didn't happen, I am almost certain, and most of us was almost certain that Peter David, when Uncle Tilly said he was going to go for 2 years, he was only going to do 2 years, and he was going to step down. Peter David was his blue-eyed boy, so was all of us. People favored him, people liked him, he bubbly, he was charming. He was the next in line, not Nazim Burke. Nazim Burke was the most serious one who didn't, bubble around and do the things that Peter David did. And so he was more than likely, and very liked by Uncle Tilly, I must say. Even when Peter was misbehaving and he was Minister of Foreign Affairs and Tourism, Uncle Tilly gave him a choice when he wanted to pull one of the ministries from him. He gave him the choice to choose which one he wanted to keep. That's how bad it was. And members complained that Uncle Tilly sat on his file up to today, did not tell the party or the nation what was really going on and what really went on with him and Peter Day. A lot of us don't even know some of the things, right? So it brought back those memories. And I don't understand why there was first the demise of the revolution because of faction inside and the infighting. There was the demise of the NDC 2008 to 13 because of infighting and the faction. What are we doing now? I understand NDC is in almost that mess, the same mess, with who on this side, who on Prime Minister, who don't talk to the Prime Minister, who the Prime Minister not talking to. As I said, I would deal with it next week because I have some MO. You know how that goes. And now an NNP. So it's knocking there now at their doors, at their door. So who we left with? You know, and it's sad. We're a small nation. We're one people really, and that we have this. Of course, we don't expect everybody to be in one party. We're not trying to have a one-party state here, period. It's not going to happen in my lifetime, I don't think. It may happen down the road, I don't know. But not in our lifetime. And this sort of, you don't have to agree with everything everyone say, but the confusion, the chaos, and the ones that seek to destroy their parties because they're not getting what they want. We have to stop that. And we're talking about intelligent, smart people. I see the NDC sharing Hamlet's blog and saying, you know, the veteran journalist and this and how he's so smart with the pen. They only know that now because he's in the blog and other things exposing the business of the NNP, right? A few weeks ago, their main blogger was, not blogger, but what he is, a program guy, right? Podcaster, was cussing him when Callistra spoke up against the party, against the government and the Prime Minister for not accepting her invitation to interview him. And he cussed off Hamlet. Now Hamlet is on his station trying to destroy the leader of the NNP and his party. We have to stop that. We have to stop that. But I mean, there's a lot more I can say, but in an interest of time, I can't. And I probably shouldn't. But I just want to say, guys, settle down. Time to settle down. You guys are older now. Some of you are late 60s. Makes you wonder, you know, why you want to go in the front. But anyway. You know, so because you say your leader's old and you need to step back. You're almost there. And if you're now starting, what are you saying to the young people? And as I say, young people, a government, the NDC 2022, who campaign on young people and them being in the forefront of their party. Yes, they had some in the cabinet, but full stop, more or less. Listen to this clip.
I'm absolutely making absolutely no apologies for my past, right? I had helped Dr. Mitchell before, and when I thought he went astray, I helped remove him. And when I thought NDC squandered the opportunity Grenadians gave them, I worked against them. I have absolutely no apologies for that. Absolutely none. And the Grenadian people, at the end of the day, decide the destiny, and they've decided, and so be it. I mean, you may have a problem with that, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
I mean, but don't expect me to come here to apologize, and don't expect me to come here to say everything that you want to hear. I'm afraid I don't operate that way. I'm sorry. And also, I've never been anything for life. Yeah. I'm not a gay right for life. I'm not a jewel for life. I deal with reality.
Yes.
When the reality change, I change.
Right.
I make no apologies for that. Absolutely none. You can be something for life even when things change. That's fine.
Yes, based on what Mr. Mark has said, I think it fits the description of a mercenary, because if you are just changing to suit the tide, or you are changing, you deal with change in reality. In my book, in my humble book, this is the description of a mercenary.
That was my dear cousin there, Hamlin Mark, many years ago, when he was questioned on the bringing down of the NDC. And he admitted, and he said he makes no apologies for it. He worked with you. If you don't like what's happening, I guess for him, he would bring you down. Every day is not Sunday. Folks, I leave you with this clip of the Minister of Youth. He is now the Minister of Youth and Sports, actually. And when that was during the campaign, and he started off as Minister of Health, and now he is Minister of Youth and Sports. And how our young people is going to be a part of what's happening in this country.
An NDC government will ensure that youth in agriculture and fisheries, youth in diplomacy and diplomatic affairs, youth in sport, medicine, and sport leadership, youth in every division of every area and sector of government will be visible at every level of our political structure.
So far, we've hired 40-something retirees that I know of in all sectors. I'm going to read it out for you. William Thompson, Don McKenzie, Jesmond Prince, Oliver Benoit, Peter Antoine, George Prime, Franca Bernadine, Alison Miller, Rita Joseph, Sherma Joseph, John Charles, Rodney George, Terrence Smith, Nazim Burke, Raymond Nurse, Cecil Winsborough, Philip Alexander, Gemma Bain Thomas, Livingston Nelson, Patrick Simmons, Richard Duncan, Stephen Fletcher, Curland Gilchrist, Sylvester Quallis, Vincent Roberts, Kennedy Roberts, Larry Barry, Kenrick Fullerton, Monique Noel, Chris D. Riggs, William Batiste, Deborah St. Bernard, Faith Thompson, Aaron Moses, Leslie McQueen, Glenn Noel, Elwin McQuilkin, the Black Wizard, Raphael Joseph, Hugh Dolan, Frances Purcell, Benedict Peters, Judy Benoit, Cecil Noel, James Alexander, Bernard Antoine, Anselm Clouden. I'll keep you posted. 46 of them so far. Some of them were leads and may not be there anymore, maybe a couple, but I'm not quite sure. But for the majority, they are hired out on boards. Well, the police force have a few, the ministries, they've been brought back. And we have a bunch of young, educated professionals out there still waiting on this administration to bring them to the table. Folks, that's a wrap on today's episode of Simon Says. It is always a pleasure conversing with you, keeping them honest. Thank you for joining Simon Says, where facts come first. See you next time, same place, same time. Bye. Have a great week.
Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.